What have you heard about arms dealers? Do you wish to know more about the Russian arms dealers accused of selling arms to both sides during a civil war? If you want to know more, make sure you watch this video until the end. Due to their infamous exploits, gun traffickers are one of the most feared people. Unlike other organized crime commodities, small guns illicit trade is more directly tied with wielding power in communities than with gaining a financial advantage. According to academics, illegal arms sales are estimated to be worth more than $1 billion every year. Arms trafficking, although being one of the least profitable illicit transactions, generated an estimated $1.7 to $3.5 billion in 2014, making it the 9th largest criminal industry, valued at $1.6 to $2.2 trillion. This is the story of Russian arms merchants who supplied weaponry to war-torn portions of Africa for years. One guy sold weaponry to warlords and governments from the Central African Republic to the Democratic Republic of Congo to Sudan and Libya. So, who was in charge of calling the shots, transferring weapons, and arming troops? Viktor Bout will be the one to do it. Have you never heard of him? Let us quickly catch you up. Viktor Anatolyevich Bout is a Russian arms trader born on January 13, 1967, in Soviet-ruled Tajikistan. Bout was born in Dushanbe, Tajikistan's capital in the Soviet Union, the son of an accountant and an auto mechanic. He is claimed to be from Turkmenistan's Ashgabat and has also been recognized as a Ukrainian. He served as a translator in the Russian army as a lieutenant. Bout, who studied interpretation at Moscow's Military Institute of Foreign Languages, went into business when the Soviet Union fell apart in 1991, with a half-dozen languages under his belt and as many passports. According to various sources, he was born in the Soviet republics of Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Ukraine. He is married and has a Spanish-born daughter. On the other hand, Bout denies any ties to the Soviet spy service. Whether the KGB links are actual or not, observers believe Bout appears to have high-level connections among Russia's political elite. How did Viktor Bout become involved in the arms trade? Bout, a Russian citizen, began his career in air transportation in the early 1990s, following the disintegration of the Soviet Union. Bout started his company using military jets abandoned on the airfields of the disintegrating Soviet Empire in the early 1990s. According to a 2007 book titled Merchant of Death by security specialists Douglas Farah and Stephen Braun. A fleet of vintage Antonov planes controlled by former Russian military commander Viktor Bout landed on perilous desert and jungle airstrips in war zones across the globe for more than a decade. The durable Antonovs and Ilyushins and their crew were offered for sale, and they were ideal for carrying supplies to rough wartime airstrips all over the world. Bout is also claimed to have started funneling weaponry to war-torn portions of Africa through a network of front firms. Bout had an extraordinary ability to get firearms to difficult places that other arms dealers couldn't get to. According to UN records, Bout is a businessman, arms dealer, and mineral transporter who aided former President Taylor's administration in destabilizing Sierra Leone and gaining unlawful access to diamonds. He armed the Taliban and the Northern Alliance in Afghanistan and the Revolutionary United Front in Sierra Leone with enormous amounts of ex-Soviet weapons. The United Nations identified him as a close ally of former Liberian President Charles Taylor. He's also suspected of arming Liberia's Charles Taylor dictatorship, Angola's UNITA, different Congolese groups, and the Philippines' Abu Sayyaf extremist Islamic group. Diamonds were used to pay for weaponry in Africa. The United States and its contractors recruited Bout's fleet to bring cargo into Iraq in the early 2000s, possibly the most ironic twist of his career. The majority of these flights, which were in the hundreds, took place after former President George W. Bush issued an executive order making doing business with Bout illegal, citing him as a security danger to the United States. The UN has employed Bout's enterprises to send peacekeepers to Somalia, French troops to Rwanda, and humanitarian aid to Sri Lanka following the tsunami. He also dispatched hostage negotiators to the Philippines in 2000, when a group of tourists was kidnapped by the extremist group Abu Sayyaf, to whom Bout had previously reportedly provided guns. During the 1992 to 1995 conflict in Bosnia-Herzegovina, he was also a significant weaponry dealer to Bosnian Muslims. In retrospect, it seems incredible that he could operate for so long. In 2000, a British minister exposed him as a death merchant, and the UN branded him a significant sanctions breaker in Africa's civil conflicts in the same year. Arrest warrants were obtained in 2002 in Belgium, where his initial fleet was stationed until it was relocated to South Africa, and later in Sharjah, United Arab Emirates. When the Belgian authorities obtained an arrest order in 2002, he was compelled to flee his house. He may have traveled under many names, passing via the United Arab Emirates and South Africa before appearing in Russia in 2003. Bout returned to Russia, where he was protected at a high level. In a statement published in 2002, the Russian Federal Security Service stated there is no basis to suspect that this Russian person has done any unlawful acts. Bout is accused of arming both sides in Angola's civil war and supplying weapons to warlords and governments across the continent, from the Central African Republic to the Democratic Republic of Congo and Sudan and Libya. According to Middle Eastern media accounts, he was a gunrunner for Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. In a 2009 interview with Channel 4 News in the United Kingdom, he denied ever engaging with Al-Qaeda or the Taliban. However, in the mid-1990s, he admitted to flying munitions to Afghanistan, claiming that they were utilized by commanders battling the Taliban. He also claimed to have assisted the French government in transporting goods and UN peacekeepers to Rwanda following the genocide. Throughout the 2000s, the United States took steps against Bout, including freezing his assets in 2006. However, there was no statute under which he could be charged in the U.S. Instead, U.S. spies waited until 2008, when they pretended to be purchasers for Colombia's FARC guerrillas and met Bout through one of his former cronies. Bout was detained by Thai officials shortly after the undercover detectives discussed weaponry supplies to FARC with him, and protracted legal efforts to transfer him to the United States began. According to his wife, Bout claimed that the U.S. prosecution against him was politically driven, and that his sole link to Colombia was tango lessons. The Russian government has backed him all the way, with Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov promising to fight for his return to Russia and calling the Thai's court ruling unreasonable and political. "We lament what we believe to be an illegitimate political judgment by the Thai appeals court," Lavrov said. According to the evidence, this decision was taken under a great deal of external pressure. "It's a pity," Lavrov remarked. Bout said he was merely a businessman with a genuine international transportation company who had been falsely accused of attempting to supply South American insurgents due to U.S. political maneuvering. According to his 3-week trial, Bout was informed the weaponry would be used to assassinate United States pilots collaborating with Colombian officials. According to prosecutors, he said, "We have the same adversary." The exploits of former Soviet Air Force member Viktor Bout are so well known that they have spawned a Hollywood blockbuster. The 2005 film Lord of War is based on the biography of the armaments merchant. At the end of the film, the anti-hero manages to elude retribution. After being found guilty of conspiring to assassinate Americans and United States officials, transporting anti-aircraft missiles, and assisting a terrorist organization, he was sentenced to 25 years in jail in April 2012. Authorities in the United States reported in November 2012 that they had denied Moscow's request to extradite Bout to Russia. Leave this video a like if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more.